If you carry something heavy for long enough, you stop feeling the weight, but it is still bending your back. My name is Harold. I'm 79 years old, and I spent more than 40 years angry at a man who never even knew I was angry at him.
I did not think of myself as an angry person back then. I worked, paid my bills, raised 2 kids, showed up where I was supposed to. On the outside, I looked steady, dependable, the kind of man people say is solid. Inside, though, I was having the same argument over and over with someone who was not in the room, not in the house, not even in my life anymore. It started when I was 38. I had a small construction business with a partner named Victor. We had built it from nothing, 2 trucks, borrowed tools, and a lot of long days. I trusted him the way you trust a brother when you are young, and still believe loyalty is a simple thing. One year a big contract came through, the kind that could change everything, and a few months later I found out he had signed side deals and walked away with money that should have kept our business afloat. By the time I understood what had happened, the company was already sinking.
He moved to another state. No fight, no shouting, no big scene, just paperwork, excuses, and gone. I never saw him again. That quiet ending is what hooked me. If he had yelled, if we had thrown punches, maybe it would have burned out. Instead, I carried it like an unfinished sentence. I replayed conversations in my head, thinking of what I should have said, what I should have seen, how I should have stopped him. Every time something went wrong in my life, I tied it back to that moment. The smaller house we had to move into, the vacations we never took, the way my wife went back to work earlier than we planned. In my mind, Victor was still reaching into my pocket every day. I did not shout about it. I did not tell many people. I just hardened a little. I stopped trusting easily. When someone was late, I assumed they did not care. When a deal looked good, I looked for the trap. My wife would say, "You always expect the worst now," and I would tell her I was just being realistic.
At home, my anger had no name, but it had a shape. It made me impatient. If the kids broke something, I reacted like they had betrayed me. If my wife forgot something small, I would go quiet for hours. I thought I was teaching everyone to be careful. What I was really teaching them was to walk softly around me. Years passed. The business recovered, slowly. We were never rich, but we were fine. Still, in my head, I was living in that year when everything fell apart. I measured my life not by what I had, but by what I believed had been taken. That kind of thinking is like drinking salt water. The more you swallow, the thirstier you get. In my 50s, I started having stomach problems. Doctors said stress, acid, nothing dramatic, just you need to relax more. I nodded, but I did not see myself as stressed. I thought of stress as rushing around, loud voices, big problems. My anger was quiet. It sat with me at breakfast, drove with me to work, lay down with me at night. It felt normal.
The strange thing is, I never tried to contact Victor. I did not want an apology. I did not want an explanation. I wanted him to be guilty in the exact way I had decided he was, frozen in time as the man who ruined everything. That story gave my pain a place to live. When I was 76, my wife passed away after a short illness. 51 years together, and then the house was suddenly too quiet. Grief does something to your routines. You start opening old drawers, looking at old papers, touching things you have not looked at in decades because there is no one left to tell you to stop living in the past.
One afternoon, I found a small box of documents from the old business days, contracts, invoices, letters. I sat at the kitchen table and went through them slowly. My eyes are not what they used to be, so I took my time. At the bottom was a letter from Victor that I had never opened. It must have come after everything collapsed. The envelope was already torn on one side, like I had started to open it, and then stopped. I read it right there. He wrote that he had been in serious debt, that someone had pressured him, that he had made a desperate decision and hated himself for it. He said he knew I would never forgive him, but he hoped one day I would understand he had been afraid, not cruel. At the end, he wrote that he wished he had been brave enough to tell me face to face. I sat there for a long time, not because the letter fixed anything. We still lost the business, we still struggled. But for the first time in nearly 40 years, Victor was not a villain carved from stone. He was a scared man who made a bad choice. And then the thought came, simple and heavy. He moved on with his life and whatever it was. I stayed behind, guarding a wound like it was a treasure. I built a personality around not forgiving him. He may have hurt me once. I hurt myself for decades. I started remembering moments with my wife, my kids, friends, where my tightness had filled the room. All the evenings I sat silent, all the times I assumed the worst, all the joy that passed by because I was busy holding court in a trial that ended in 1985. Resentment does not shout. It whispers the same story until you think it is your own voice. It tells you that staying angry is strength, that letting go means what happened was acceptable. But I see now at this age that forgiveness is not about saying something was fine. It is about deciding you are done carrying it.
I know I cannot walk backward into those 40 years and live them again with a lighter heart. Time does not return things just because we finally understand them. I cannot sit at the edge of the bed beside my wife and tell her, in the ordinary tone of an ordinary evening, that I am sorry for all the times my body was in the room, but my mind was somewhere else, replaying an old betrayal like it was happening in front of me. I cannot reach back to the man I was at 38, put a hand on his shoulder, and tell him that pain can visit your life without being allowed to move in and rearrange the furniture. I cannot tell him that one man's failure, one moment of loss, does not have to become the lens through which you see everyone and everything that follows.
What I can do at this age is something smaller, but still real. When I feel that familiar tightening in my chest, that old heat that used to feel like strength, I pause long enough to recognize it. I no longer treat it like a warning siren or a voice of wisdom. I see it as a habit I practiced for so many years that it started to feel like part of my personality. But habits are learned, and anything learned can be set down, even if your hands shake a little when you first try. I let myself picture very plainly what that anger cost me. Not in dramatic scenes, just in quiet, everyday moments that now seem more valuable than all the arguments I won in my head. Birthday dinners where I was distracted and short-tempered, evenings on the couch when my wife leaned against me, talking about her day, and I answered, but not fully, because part of me was still living in an old office with old papers and an old sense of injustice. Mornings when my children wanted to show me something small and unimportant, and I brushed them off because I was carrying something heavy that had nothing to do with them. I used to think my resentment was a way of honoring what I had lost, like I was proving that it mattered. Now I see it more like a debt I kept choosing to pay, with interest, long after the original bill should have been filed away. Every day I stayed angry, I gave that old moment more of my life than it ever deserved. I let it shape my tone, my patience, my expectations of people who had done nothing to earn my suspicion. So when I speak now, I speak gently, especially to those of you who might be younger and still strong enough to carry these things without feeling the strain. If there is someone you argue with every night in your thoughts, someone who has not been in front of you for years, someone who may not even remember the moment that still burns in you, I am not asking you to say it did not hurt. I am not asking you to call wrong things right. I am only asking you to be honest about the price you are paying to keep that anger alive. Ask yourself what it is taking from you today, not what it took back then. Notice how it enters rooms before you do. Notice how it speaks through you to people who love you and have nothing to do with the original wound. Notice how it quietly convinces you that holding on is a form of control, when in truth it is the past still holding on to you. At 79, I finally loosened my grip. I did not do it because the man who hurt me earned forgiveness. And I did not do it because the past suddenly made sense. I did it because I looked at the years I have left, however many or few they may be, and understood they are too precious to spend arguing with ghosts. I set that weight down, not as a gift to him, but as an act of mercy toward the life I am still living.